So you see we have P4Dmatic open. First thing we're going to do is import our images by hitting select images and finding our images and importing them. Now we're going to give the project a project name and a project path. All right, once we have that set up, we're going to click Start, and we will have our images imported. Okay, next thing we're going to do is import our control and check shots. I think I hit the wrong. There we go, select from disk. There they are. Let's set up our CRS. Adding 3, 2011. Nope, that's not it. This guy, there it is. Geoid 18. There we go. Now that we have that set up, we're going to assign the values for our columns. Name, Y, X, and Zulu. There we go. Okay, there we go. So obviously this is just a short tutorial. It's clearly not to ASPRS accuracy standards, but the workflow is the same. So we're going to use we'll use 102 as our control, and we'll use 103, 104, and 101 as independent check shots. Okay. So 102 we have established as our control. And now we are going to zoom in on each of the images where that control point appears. And to do that, you'll see right here on the right-hand side, this button right here, we'll click that. That will open up the images. And to zoom in, I'm going to hold down the control and use the scroll wheel on the mouse to zoom in. And I'm going to click or left click on each image where the control is. Okay, looks like we got them all. Thought there were a few more. I believe that is it. We can go over to the 3D view here, and it will actually show us each of the images that are tied into the to the control point. Okay. All right, so the next step is the calibration. So over here on the left-hand side, we're going to hit the gear icon and select calibration. There are a number of templates here that we can choose from. And if we just hover over each of the templates to the right-hand side, a brief description of that template will pop up. So we're going to choose map, full image scale, and start. All right, see that we have the calibration completed. We can go back to our tie points and check our control. Anything we want to see is make sure that projection error is less than 1. We could probably run this again and get that a little lower, but we can see everything's tied in pretty good. So we're just really splitting hairs with that. So next step we are going to do is just confirm that we have a good data set by checking our check shots. So we're going to click on our first check shot, go up here to the right-hand side, open up our images, and we're going to zoom all the way in, click center. And now we're going to start clicking each of our images. I usually like to remove these green X's because they don't always line up in the middle of our check shots. It just kind of throws me off. So I want to right click and hide the reprojection marks. So we're just going to left click in the center of each check shot. All right, there we go. Anything less than 1. Okay, change this to. Yep, that's about what I'd expect with the P1. Ground sample distance, 1/2 inch. RMSE right at 1 inch. That's about right. So it looks like we've got a good data set. Again, this is just a tutorial. Clearly, we would have more check shots than this, but as I mentioned earlier, it's the same workflow. Okay, so now that we have checked our data, everything looks good. We can now go ahead and set up our project outline. And you'll see this icon up here at the top, the region of interest. We're going to click that. And then I'm going to draw the border of my map around the images. So we're just going to left click, and double left click. So this is the area that's going to be processed when our ortho and point cloud and elevation model is processed. This is going to be the actual area of the data set. Okay, next thing is we're going to make sure calibration is unselected. We're going to select dense point cloud. We're not going to change anything here. We're going to scroll down and select DSM and ortho. No need to change any of this information or any of these settings right here. And once we have that done, we'll click start and the processing will begin. Okay, we can see that our processing has been completed. And to export this data, we go over to the left-hand side. We'll go back to our processing options, the gear icon. And the first thing we want to make sure is we have everything unchecked up here. The reason why is if you inadvertently have some of these checked, and you go to export the data, it's going to start reprocessing everything, and it's going to erase it and restart the process. It can be a little frustrating. So we can export our quality report, our point cloud, our surface model, and the ortho. And now we're going to go in and set up the export locations. It should default to the export folder. So in the project path that we created earlier, you can see a number of folders that were created during the processing, and one called export. So everything should default to this folder right here. So there is our quality report, our dense point cloud. We're going to use 1.4. There it is, that folder right there. So we're going to send a point cloud to the point cloud folder. Let's see here. And our surface model. So when we check the surface model, this TIFF file, you'll notice it gives you the option for, well, first, you've got the format, which is obviously a GeoTIFF. It will default to the compression. I always recommend just selecting the compression. It really isn't any impact on the integrity of the data or anything like that. It just uses, as it was explained to me, basically an algorithm or some sort of fancy voodoo math, if you will, where it's just going to compress the file and just make it more manageable. So you can see without it being compressed at 100%, just this small area, 129 megs. So imagine this is only 21 images. So imagine, yeah, 1,000 or 1,500 images. That'd be a pretty big file. But when you compress it, it will basically give you about half the size. So this is pretty manageable. We could either tile it or export it as a single. If you tile it, you'll have the option for various tile sizes as well as the image scale. Now, if you change the image scale, whether if you do a single or tile, it will down here at the bottom, it will let you know what the ground sample distance will be. So if we do say 25%, this data set's going to be, excuse me, a little less than 2 inches. If you do half, it's going to be right at 1 inch. And if you do 100%, it's going to be about 1/2 inch. And then the same for the tiles. You can choose your tile size as well as your image scale. So usually for really large data sets, I'll, excuse me, I will do, where is it? It doesn't even look like it's letting me tile this one. No, there it is. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'll usually do 100%, and yeah, since this is a small data set, it's not really breaking it up too much. But for the larger data sets, if you do 100% and have the smaller pixel size, I think it'll max it out right around 250 megs. But again, this is a pretty small data set. It's not really doing. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. There it is, right here. So it's going to give you your tile sizes, but again, fairly small. So we're just going to do a single 100%, 65 megs. That's not that bad. And then our ortho, you have the option to do either JPEG or GeoTIFF. Usually customers, if they don't have the means of viewing a GeoTIFF, or if they don't know how to, say, import it into Google Earth, this is a pretty nice feature to use right here. And then you can also scale the size right here as well, and it'll give you information on the pixel. So we're going to do our GeoTIFF. We'll do a single tile as well. Make sure I got my folders set up. Nope, I forgot to do that. So we'll do a folder for our surface model. And a folder for our ortho. And double check just to make sure nothing up here is selected. Nope, it's not. And click start. You can see it's exporting everything right here at the bottom.